Welcome to Voice of Reason.
All right, good day, everyone. It's good to have you join us on yet another interesting episode of the special interview coming to you, coaching the Voice of Reason VOR. Today, we're going to be talking about industrialization, the Southwest region, and of course, Nigeria at large. And my guest on the program today is a foremost industrialist in Nigeria, a man that worked so hard to earn reputation in the manufacturing sector of the Nigerian economy. He is Otunba Aderemu Abdul. Good day to you, sir. It's good to have you on the program.
Same here.
All right.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start. This country, Nigeria, especially the Southwest, at some point in time, some persons will argue got it right in terms of deliberate industrialization of the country. But the belief is that presently the country has lost it. Now, how true is this assertion? Where were we, okay, or where was Nigeria as a country in the past, and where are we today?
Thank you very much. Let me underscore your question. If the content of your economy doesn't have a large percentage of manufacturing, you really don't have an economy. So, it is industry and manufacturing that propel economy. That was why Western region was at the forefront of development in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, up to a little bit of 80s. Why? The whole of Western region was dotted both in private and public industries. Places like Ilupeju, places like Industrial Estate, places like Isolo in Lagos, in Ibadan, even up to Ekiti State, where you have textile mills. So industries were dotted all around Southwest, which was a big foresight for the former premier of Western region. And of course, coupled with the aggressive level of providing education for our people, because there's a relationship between literacy level and your level of development, particularly when it comes to industry and manufacturing. So what has happened was that consistently several government policies after, let me say, 1970 up to the present time had been more or less anti-development. That is, policies were against manufacturing, whether it's deliberate or not. And those government policies actually influence the direction of the economy, whether the economy is going to grow, whether it's going to develop. Those policies actually affect it. So what has happened in Western region is that 60% of manufacturing efforts in Nigeria between 1960 and 1990 were mostly concentrated in Southwest by the former visionary leaders, because they knew that without a high content of manufacturing plus agriculture, you don't really have an economy. And when you chunk out large number of youths that you have given opportunities to in education, where are you going to plug them for employment? So they had a lot of foresight. Western region had all these facilities, all this industrial effort, both private and public. So the economy of Western region was booming, vis-a-vis also in certain part of other Nigerians who had realized the competitive nature of Western region and the copy and exchange between all the regions at that time. So what had actually decimated manufacturing or industrialization efforts in Southwest is basically the wrong government policies and lack of foresight and deep knowledge of how manufacturing works.
Okay, so at that time when industrialization or manufacturing was thriving, in the southwest region of the country, because you would agree that a reasonable number or percentage of our industries in Nigeria were situated in the southwest region. Was it a case of the southwest region having enough raw materials to propel the industries at that time, or it was as a result of the ingenuity of the leaders, such that today we can say we are where we are because those resources are no longer available or something?
Thank you. There are two aspects to this question. One is agro-ally in nature, which was successfully executed. Agro-ally, from your seedling to your planting to your harvesting to your value added, was done in Western region. The hardcore industry, which is manufacturing, has a high level of input locally. Take furniture, for example. The furniture made in Western region at that time were fully, almost 90%, raw material based from local source. There were furnitures that were being distributed by SCOA, which is a French company, across Nigeria, that were made in Ibadan. Thomas Furniture, one of them is Thomas Furniture, owned by Professor Akikugbe also at that time. And we had a relationship because I bought my furniture in 1979 from them, both for the factory and for Lagos head office. And I was asking the question, the content of their raw material. He said it's almost 90% wood. So likewise, other auxiliary industries in Western region. You have the likes of juice makers, you have the likes of tires in Ibadan, reboring tires, which raw material basically is tire you've used, they remove the outer layer and put a new one, So and so, etc. of different products that were made within Southwest, which the raw materials were available. And the good thing about the agricultural area in Western region, which we lost along the line, was the fact that you cannot saddle a farmer to plant at the same time market his product. His expertise is farming and farming correctly. So what smartly the government of Western region did at that time was to say, look, you farmers, stay on your farm. We'll provide you all the inputs that you need to farm. From logistics to money to finance to quality control to transportation to logistics, just we'll provide it. Once you finish, we'll have somebody to take it off you. And once we export and we sell, we'll give you your money. So a lot of wealth was created among the Western region farmers at that time. So that was the chain of value that brought prosperity to Western region. In the core manufacturing area also, you have late Chief T.A. Odutola in Ijebu-Ode, who is the founder of Nigeria Manufacturing Association, with industries in alliance with Leventis, both in liquid alcohol, beverages, and all the rest of it. Then you have cocoa processing in Ondo with value added. Then you have all sorts of industries in Southwest. They were able to have a mixture and a large percentage of their raw materials, both import and locally added raw material. So they succeeded in the sense that there was no much restriction on foreign exchange. And also foreign exchange availability, there was no this serious fluctuation. For a manufacturer, you cannot survive if the currency of exchange is going up and down. You cannot plan. Because by the time you bring the goods in, you are taking it through the process of manufacturing. If there's an impact on the exchange rate, it impacts how you bring in your next percentage of raw materials. Even if you have 60% locally and 40% from that 40% still have a negative impact if there's no stability in the currency.
Okay, you did say there are times that there is correlation between the level of education of the people and the level of industrialization or the level of manufacturing that will take place. Let's cast our mind back. Was there a formal education for the manufacturers at that time? I mean, if we're saying you've mentioned some prominent names, while they taught in a formal setting, the expertise they gathered, was it in a formal setting such that we can say, okay, let's go back and imbue all of this into our curriculum today, or it was an innate thing?
The answer to that is in two parts. Some people are gifted. They are naturally good entrepreneurs with vision. Like I mentioned, Chief Oditola, his education is not that high, but he has instincts, natural instincts for investment in the right places. The people running Western Region government understood one thing, one fundamental principle, that if you are setting up industries, you need a good manpower to go with it. That's why the profit from free education was our ability to convert graduating students into training, into working in those factories. So if that sequence had not been broken, like I said before, in 1985, Nigeria will not be where it is. Western region also will not be where it is. I would suggest, or I would say, that the government needs to realize that you cannot create jobs. You cannot have a high revenue by just trading. Particularly what we call container economy, which is just virtually import everything you need for your people. It should be the corollary. If you can provide or make at least 30, 40, or 50% of your needs locally, your economy will start to grow in double-digit GDP. Because you are not relying on people sending products to you, which is virtually also inflationary. Because the moment there's a problem with the oil and pricing in the Western world or in Far East Asia, where we import bulk of our needs, we are importing products, we are also importing inflation. That's why you cannot control inflation effectively in Nigeria when you have a high content of importation, because you are actually importing what other people have made under certain circumstance, which is high inflation environment, and they send it to you. You are inheriting that inflation. The products come to Nigeria with high inflation, and you now start selling here with the prices that you brought the goods in. That's why it's just like a barber's chair. The government institutions that control fiscal and monetary policies, seems to be going around.
Movement without.
Yes, because today they will say the MPR is 13%, tomorrow is 15%. You have to go deeper to find out the instability of the monetary policy. This is one aspect of it that is very critical. Because we are import dependent, 70-80% of our needs are provided from outside. In 1955 or 56 or 57, American President John F. Kennedy said Americans were going to the moon. They would land in the moon. That's what created all these technologies that you are seeing. It was a national ambition. It galvanizes all the citizens, both in school, in technology. Everybody was looking at that particular ambition, and they worked towards it. And what did he bring? He brought internet. He brought all this GSM phone. He brought space technology. He brought satellite. These are things that, in the practical sense, the government needs to pursue a national ambition. It's not taught in any textbook in any university. You use your entrepreneur who had gone through the mill, who have seen things the way it is done in a different environment, and adapt it to your local environment. If we have not lost those things through policy somersaults, our culture will still be towards what you've said. That is, our children will be trained. The first batch of Nigerians that went to England, our parents and my uncles, the moment they finish or they are going in those days, we follow them to Papa. The only available transportation was Orea ship. So when they go, they spend 3, 4, 5 years, they become accountant, lawyers, doctor. They are in a hurry to come back and develop this place. The opposite is what we are witnessing now. People are ready to like the young people say, Jackpa, they're just ready to run away from this place. What that teaches you is that the environment is not conducive to anything, to growth, to economic development.
Okay, so will we seek an answer to what can be done to, change the tide and make the environment to be more conducive? Again, if Nigeria is not pursuing a national agenda presently,
A national ambition. Yes.
Have you seen anyone being pursued by the Southwest region? Is there a regional ambition?
No, I've not seen it, and I must be frank. You see, for an entrepreneur like me, I've been exposed to all the corners of the world. I started dealing with Japanese when I was 28 years old. I have visited Southeast Asia more than 50 times in my career. I've been to China, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Japan, those axes. And I've also schooled in the US. I've been to Europe. So, I know that good times are good, but bad times are better. Bad times, provides you an opportunity for growth. Nigeria is in bad time now. All we have to do is to initiate the right policies to leapfrog this economy. Part of it is this. Let's identify industries that can lift this place. One of them is vehicle, cars.
I thought cars are being assembled here in this country today.
No. Let me try and bring a little bit of education in the manufacturing of cars. For me, if I want to be consulted by the government, that how do we approach, vehicular manufacturing in Nigeria? This is the roadmap. You don't start manufacturing cars. It's never done. You start with commercial vehicles. Which one? Simpler to make. They are boxes. Look at your buses. When you look at a bus, you are looking at a bus. It's a box with empty inside where people are going to sit. The parts are fewer and they are larger and they are easier to make. In those days, Anamco in Anambra, in Apapa, you have Bedford by UAC. In Ibadan, you have Leland. In Bauchi, you have Steer Motors. In Kano, you have Fiat. That was the beginning that we lost. Those industries were supposed to germinate after 10 years before you now go into cars. The investment of making trucks is very small comparable to cars. Cars keep changing every 2 years. And sophistication. You have high investment. So when you want to start vehicular manufacturing and you want to succeed, you start with commercial vehicles, the big ones. When you are doing that, you will be setting up parts supply. The CKD that you manufacture, that you mentioned just now, I did CKD in 1980. So if I want to manufacture air conditioning now, I should go back to, after 40 years, go back to CKD. It's a wrong obsolete approach. The approach is you start with parts. Let my company, UTL, standardize on making heat exchangers for people who want to make AC. Let some people start making compressor. Let some people start making motors for making air conditioners.
Isn't that still manufacturing, but components?
The component, the emphasis will not be on component. The reason why CKD or SKD is out of fashion is because of automation. When they want to deceive you, they said, we are assembling from CKD. We bring the raw materials as CKD from abroad. CKD is something that has already been produced fully because the factory is in automation. You can't stop it. It has to go through the line to the finishing line and becomes a car. So when it becomes a car, you now dismantle it, you knock it down into parts. Are you with me? Into parts, and then repackage it and send it to Russia to reassemble. Look at the cost, both in freight, both in manpower. So it's not visible. It's out of fashion. You now have robotics. You have everything. You put the raw material at the door. You get the finished product at the end of the door because of automation. So technically, CKD is dead. The government should concentrate on people who are interested in setting up factory for components.